How's it going, Signal? As Matt just said, my name is Sam Agnew. I'm a developer evangelist for Twilio, and this is the final talk between you and Bash, which is our after party. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be the greatest developer party of all time. I'm thoroughly convinced. You can quote me on that. Anyway, I figured to end all these sessions off with something fun would be a good idea. And what could be more fun than us playing video games together? So as you can see on my screen, I have the Visual Boy Advance emulator running the game Pokemon Red version. And what's interesting about this is that this is the Windows version of the Visual Boy Advance emulator, even though I'm running it on a Mac. And the reason I'm doing this is because the Windows version of the emulator gives me access to a Lua API that I could use to extend its functionality and even programmatically control the game. So you might remember in 2014, a phenomenon went viral called Twitch Plays Pokemon that took advantage of similar functionality. It consisted of a twitch.tv channel live streaming the game Pokemon Red while the viewers played the game together in the chat simultaneously by entering commands. For instance, if you typed in up, the up button would be pressed on the Game Boy. If you typed in A, the A button would be pressed. And this was absolutely everywhere for several weeks. And when you have 100,000 people playing the same game at the same time, things can get pretty chaotic. I couldn't stop watching. So I decided I wanted to recreate the magic of Twitch Plays Pokemon, but for all of you right here, right now, via Twilio SMS to send commands to the Game Boy instead of Twitch chat. And let's get started with that. So I'm going to switch to this microphone. Can you all still hear me? Awesome. So let's get a quick hello world going on for this with this Lua API. Let's see what we can do. I'm going to create a file called Pokemon.lua. And the way this works is that I just have a Lua script, and I just click run on the emulator, and it runs the Lua script. It's pretty crazy. I'm going to start off by accessing this emu object, emu as in short for emulator, not the animal. So I'm going to call emu.message, and I'm just going to give it a string. It's going to say hello signal. And then if I run that file, it should say hello signal at the bottom of the screen. Cool, so our code works. Now, all that's doing is just printing hello signal once and then disappearing. What we want is something that'll continually listen for button input, let's say. So let's throw this in an infinite loop. I'm just going to say while true do, because this is the most sophisticated programming of all time, just an infinite loop. The problem with this, though, is I'm going to run this, and you see the thread running the emulator just kind of hangs because the script is just writing hello signal to the screen at all times. It's not actually letting you play the game. As you can see right here, it says Lua script gone nuts. The Lua script has been running a long time. It may have gone crazy. Kill it? Yeah, I'm going to kill it. So Magikarp can come back on the screen. The problem with this is that we're taking over the thread of the game. So what I want to do is I want to call the frame advance function at the end of every iteration of this loop. And that turns this into basically a game loop. So every iteration of this infinite loop represents one frame of this Game Boy game being played. And at the end of each iteration, I'm going to advance to the next frame. So that way, we get to let the game play without us interrupting anything. So let me try running that again. Cool, so now it says hello signal right above that Bulbasaur. Like permanently, it'll just keep saying hello signal. But that's not very interesting. We want to play Pokemon, not just write things to Pokemon. So you might be wondering, how am I going to get this Game Boy emulator to interact with Twilio SMS? I'm not going to implement a Lua web server. I'm not super experienced with Lua, so I'm not going to try to do that in the environment of an emulator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a Python web server using the Flask framework that will listen to requests sent from Twilio. Whenever you send a text message to my Twilio number, it'll send a post request to my web server. And then, to communicate between the web server and this Lua script, I'll be writing to some text files, which is everyone loves writing to text files. So let me get started by writing some utility functions. First, I'm going to create a function that tells me whether a file exists or not. And it's just going to take a file name. And the way we're going to do this is I'm going to create a local variable that is just going to open the file that we send it for reading. And if it's not equal to nil, then I'm going to return true. And if it's nil, I'll return false. So nil is kind of like null or undefined, whatever. It's all the same stuff. I got to make sure I close the file first. I don't want to keep the file open permanently. So next what I'm going to do is, using that, I'm going to write a function that allows me to read the content of a file. given a file name. So similar to that, I'm just going to check to see if the file exists first, kind of as a common courtesy. And if the file exists, I'm going to read the content of the file and return it. So I'm going to create a local variable. I'm going to call that input. And I'm going to open whatever file you sent me for reading. After that, I'm going to read the file. Well, actually, first I have to set the standard input to be the stream from that file. So I'm going to set standard input and then read from that file. After that, I want to close the file because, again, it's not good to leave your files open. And I'll just return the content of that file. And if the file doesn't exist, I'll just return nil. So that's cool. I have a function to check whether a file exists and a function to read from a file. So now what I want to do is in every iteration of this loop, I want to check to see if button.txt exists, for instance. And if it does, I'll read from it, and that'll be the button we're going to press from the game. I'm going to assume it came from a text message. So I'm going to write one more utility function called press button. And I think you might be able to guess what that's going to do. It's going to press a button. So we have access to a joypad object in this Lua API for Visual Boy Advance emulator. And the joypad object takes a table. So a table is similar to a dictionary in Python for you Pythonistas out there. So I'm going to create an input table. That's what I'm going to call it. It's just going to be an empty table. And to press a button, I give it it's basically just a key value store. I give it the string of that button, and the value will be true. So I'm just going to set the button equal to true in that table. And that'll be the equivalent of pressing that button. So now I'm going to pass it to my joypad.set function. So I'm going to set player 1's table to be this input table. And then that will be the equivalent of pressing a button. So now over here, I want to check on every iteration of this loop to see if button.text exists. If I can type it. And if it does exist, I'm going to press that button because that's what we're here for. Pressing buttons to play video games. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read from that file. Button.text. I'm going to create that local variable. And then once I read from that file, I'm just going to remove the file. This way, if you send me a text message saying press the A button, it'll press the A button once, and it won't just continuously be reading from this file saying, oh, you're telling me to press A. So once I remove that file, I guess it would be common courtesy to let you know that I'm pressing a button. So I will say pressing. Oh, wow. We got an astronaut coming here. You, sir, do you like playing video games by any chance? Do you think video games are out of this world?
They are out of this
Cool. You know what else is out of this world? I think I might have already told you a bit about this, but Bash, which,
Bash is coming 30
yeah.
minutes, y'all. 30 minutes.
30 minutes, gonna go to Bash. So, if you go to Bash, you might see some astronauts laying around or walking around. They probably won't be playing Pokemon, though. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let you know that I'm pressing this button. And after that, I am going to press the button. So if I just press this button for one frame, it might not actually do all that much. Who here has ever played a video game? A lot of you. So when you play a video game, you don't press a button for like 1/60th of a second. You kind of hold it down, even if it's just for a split second, right? So if I press a button on one frame, the game might not even register that as input. So I'm just gonna say whenever I get a button press, I'm just gonna hold it down for 5 frames, which is still a really short amount of time, but it's just long enough for the game to actually recognize it. So I'm gonna make a little for loop that runs 5 times. Going to call my press button function, and I'm going to advance the frame again. So this way, I'll just press the button 5 times, and move on with my life. So I think that is all the code I'll need to write for this Lua script. So let's test it out. I'm going to open button.txt. We're not texting our game yet, but I'm just going to see if it works. So I'm going to press the A button. Oh wait, first I actually need to run my new script. Cool. So I just pressed A. The file should be deleted. Let me press A again by writing this file. Cool, so now I'm talking to Professor Oak. I'm just writing to a file by pressing A. People call him the Pokemon Prof. Awesome. So now I think we're ready to get into writing some Python and interfacing with Twilio SMS. So I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to open a file called app.py. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import all the stuff I need to use. So I'm going to be using the Flask framework. So I'm going to import the Flask object and the request object, which I'm going to use to read the form data of the request. Next, I'm going to import the stuff from the Twilios that I'm going to need to use. I'm going to be just using the Twilio Python library to generate some TWIML, which is Twilio's set of XML tags, to tell us how to respond to a message or a phone call. Next, I'm going to create a list of valid Game Boy buttons, because I know you're all thinking, hey, Sam, how are you going to know that I actually texted you a button? What if I say LOL? Right? I trust all of you to be pretty good people, but I do not trust all of you to not make typos, especially because autocorrect exists. So I'm just going to check against your input. So I'm going to have a list of all the valid Game Boy buttons, up, down, left, right. A is on there, B is on there, and then start. And I guess just for fun, I'll put select, even though it doesn't really do much in this game. Next, I'm going to create my app object. So this is my Flask app. And now I can start actually building this app. So it's going to be a really pretty simple web app. It's going to just have one route. So I'm going to create that. And it's going to be /SMS. So it's going to take post requests. Whenever a text message is sent to my Twilio number, this route will receive a post request with all the information associated with that request, and it will call this function. I'll just call it SMS reply for now. And in here, first thing I'm going to do is grab the message that you sent me. So the form encoded data of the post request. The variable is called body, so I'm getting the body of that text message, and I'm just going to convert it to lowercase just to be safe, especially because autocorrect will automatically capitalize stuff for you. Don't want that burden to be on you. Next, I'm going to just make a variable that is just going to contain the message that I'm going to send back to you, and I'll say, thanks for playing Pokemon with me. And I will also, let's get some social media in on this. So I'll say tweet #signalconf @sagnewshreds, which is my Twitter handle. A lot of people might start their talks with a slide that has their information on it. I'm just going to text it to you in the middle of my talk. So tweet at me. Cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to check to see if the button you sent me is actually a valid button press. So I'm going to see if it's in my list of buttons, and if it is, I'm going to write the button to a text file. So I'm going to open button.txt for writing, and I'm going to write that button. There's one little edge case that I might need to take care of, and that is the Lua API that we're using assumes that it's not very consistent. The A and B buttons have to be capitalized, whereas everything else is lowercase. So I'm just going to make sure if you press the button A or B that I'm going to have that be capitalized. So I'm going to check to see if you pressed A or if you pressed B. And if you did, no big deal. I'm just going to convert that to uppercase before writing it to that file. Next, we have to take care of the case that you might send me a bad input. So if that's the case, I'm just going to not do anything. I'm just going to send you a different message back. Going to be nice about it. Just going to say, please send a valid Game Boy button. And then I'll let you know what buttons you're allowed to press. So I'm going to give you the list that I made. Making sure I'm PEP 8 compliant, not having long lines here. So then I'm going to give you my list of buttons. I'm just going to throw that in that text message. Now I can do the Twilio stuffs. I'm going to create a TWIML response, and that response will contain a message. And if you couldn't tell already, I'm going to send you back my response message. And next I'm going to return a string version of that response, so that'll convert all that XML stuff to actually a string that the internet can use. And now I should be able to just run my code. I'm going to run it with the host 0.0.0.0. So computers outside of my local machine can see it. All right, so I just wrote to this file. My little Vim plugin tells me that there are no style or syntax errors. So I think I'm ready to start running this code. Now, in order for Twilio to actually see my web app, I have to give it a valid URL that can be accessible over the internet. And for that, I'm using a program called ngrok. Ngrok is awesome. It saved my life at many a hackathon. All this is doing is it's opening a tunnel from port 5000 on my local host and giving me a URL, which is sagnew.ngrok.io, that will just point to that port. So to configure my Twilio number, you're all going to be texting in this number, 74310. You might recognize it from the keynote yesterday. It was the number we all used to send that rocket ship with the Twilio logo. We all used it to send that to hyperspace. So good stuff. As you can see down here, I already have it configured. So whenever you send a text message to this shortcode, a post request will be sent to sagnew.ngrok.io/SMS, which is the route you just saw me create on my Flask app. So let's just get that out of the way. Cool. So I think it's time. I'm going to start running this code. But first, before I run that code, I have to activate my virtual environment. I already have a virtual environment with all my dependencies pre-installed because I figure it's not very exciting for you to watch me pip install a bunch of stuff. So now I can run my web app. And I think it might be time to play some Pokemon. Let me just see if this works. Oh, people are already texting it. So somebody's sending A. Well, here's where I'm going to have to ask you all to help me out. I want you all to pull your phones out and play Pokemon with me. So I already have a save state loaded, so we don't have to just go through all this text because that could take forever. I named the main character Sagnew, by the way, after myself because, he always reminded me of me. I have a Super Nintendo sitting in my apartment in New York because, if you can't tell from the content of this talk, I still play old video games. Let's try to exit the room, though. So if you need the phone number, it's 74310. So everyone pull out your phones and start sending commands to 74310. And I see people are pressing start. Someone's trolling, but that's okay. That's okay. So, all right, let's go up. Try to exit this room. Awesome. Now let's try to get Sagnew to leave his mom's house. He's a grown man, shouldn't be living with his mom anymore. He's 10 years old after all, so that's old enough, according to the Pokemon anime, to go start an adventure and start sleeping in forests. So let's press B. I'm pressing B. Uh-oh, something bad happened. I'm just going to rerun that script. I didn't read the error, but cool. Now let's go down. I think we're gonna play until I got a little time left. Let's play until we can beat our rival. So let's go select a Pokemon and then beat our rival, and not talk to random people. All right, so everyone, you're gonna have to start spamming right and up because we got to get to the tall grass in the upper side of the town. All right, cool. Right and up. Let's do it. Nope. Oh, by the way, I can actually just control it right here. So if it gets too out of hand, like I'm just pressing down on the computer, so I could do that. But all right, let's try to get out of here. Go down. No. Cool. All right. This is just like Twitch Plays Pokemon, by the way, except when 80,000 people were texting in, or not texting, playing it on Twitch, it was a lot harder to control it. Oh no! All right. You want to play that game? Look at that. Look who's in command now. Oh, thanks for going to the tall grass. That's pretty cool. Oh, Professor Oak's coming to us. He's telling us he's like, oh, it's dangerous to go alone. Take this Pokemon. This is in Zelda. All right, so let's spam B or A. And he's going to take us to his lab, and we're all going to pick a Pokemon. Which Pokemon do you think we should choose as our starter? Charizard? Well, it's either Charmander, Squirtle, or Bulbasaur. She's saying Squirtle. Squirtle's actually my personal favorite. I feel like for the purpose of this talk, we might want to choose Charmander because Twilio is red if we want to be on brand. But actually, you're all gonna choose it anyway, and it's probably gonna wind up being pretty random. So let's just see what happens. When I was young, I was a serious Pokemon trainer. In my old age, I only have 3 left. Oh, and I named our rival Jeffy L, so that when we beat him in a Pokemon battle, you can all go up to the Twilio CEO and be like, I destroyed you in a Pokemon battle. Yeah, if we lose, I don't know. I didn't really consider that possibility because no one loses the first battle, right?
You don't know me.
Uh-oh. Yeah, press A. We're going to wind up choosing Charmander. All right. There you go. I didn't even try it. I don't want to give a nickname to it because that'll take too long. Awesome. All right, cool. Cool. Now Jeffy L is going to choose a Pokemon. Yeah, he's going to choose Squirtle because he's not a nice guy. Well, the real Jeffy L is a really nice guy, but the video game Jeffy L, he just wants to beat us in Pokemon. All right, cool. Thank you, whoever was pressing down. We're gonna get into an epic battle right now. Oh, cool. Select. That's useful. Come on, I'll take you on. All right. So we're gonna have to be a little coordinated in this fight. I think my strategy is I'm just gonna spam A and use Scratch, and it's a pretty intricate strategy. So you might wanna start spamming A. I know someone's gonna try using Growl. That's okay because that weakens Squirtle's attack. But hey, we're successful so far. If we win this battle, I'll be so happy. All right. We're almost halfway there. Almost halfway there. I know someone's pressing down. Oh, we're not using an item. We can't run away. There's no running from a trainer battle, of course. Oh, there we go. Hey. Up. Oh, Charmander used Growl. Uh-oh. Squirtle's going to destroy us now. I'm just going to be sending up to combat. Oh, no. Oh, no. We don't want to lose this battle. It's the most important battle of all of our lives. All right, there we go. No! Jeffy L's going to beat us. He's going to beat us. This is a lot like the actual Twitch Plays Pokemon because it was so hard to coordinate with that. We can't get to level 6 if we lose this fight. Well, this is a pretty ferocious Charmander. He's just sitting there growling at his opponent, while Squirtle's like victory is imminent. Let's see if we could scratch one time. One time. No. All right. Well, we want to kind of just look at our Pokemon right now. Cool. No, that's fine. I like checking the status of Charmander. I mean, he's only got 6 HP, so he's already out. We can't send him back out. I don't know. We're never gonna know because we're just gonna lose this battle. Oh, almost. Our Squirtle's attack is pretty low. I just gotta say, and our defense is too because that Squirtle's been tail whipping us. Nothing happened. All right, I think we've growled as much as possible. At this point, Charmander's just sitting there doing nothing. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Yo, I mean, Squirtle's strategy is really similar to ours. All right, we got it. We got it. We're still in this fight. We're still in this fight. I mean, Squirtle could just win at any moment. But, you know, I think all that growling might have helped because now, but Squirtle's kind of canceling it out with that tail whip. Uh-oh. Is this going to one-hit us? Nope. We're still in it. Almost there. Yeah, if we get a critical hit, that'll up. That's it. Up. As you can see, we lost our first battle. We must not be a very good team. Jeffy L, yeah, am I great or what? So anyway, I think that's about all we have time for. Is just the one battle. Unfortunately, we lost, but I had a great time. Did you guys have a great time? Yeah. My name is Sam Agnew. I'm a developer evangelist for Twilio. I will be at Bash. You all should be at Bash. Come find me. I'll be by the code challenges, and I'd love to hear about what you're working on and just hang out.